Hello, everyone, and welcome to State of the Game for October 6th.
6th, yes.
2016. We have to start off.
Yeah.
We had the first one of the day, Terrozona.
Congratulations.
First person to say, people still play this game?
For being that
Lol.
guy. Thank you very much.
Good job.
Thank you for your support.
Good job,
Appreciate
you did it. No, but thank you everyone for coming by today. We again are right in the midst of this whole PTS process, which is great for us, one, because we get to talk about a lot of stuff.
Yes.
That's why we have someone who knows what they're talking about here. So thank you, Nikki, for joining us. Nikki, for the people at home, who are you?
I'm Nick, or Nikki. Most people call me Nick.
All right.
For some reason, most people in Sweden don't.
Right.
But
Okay.
you can call me Nick, Nikki, whatever. I'm part of the economy and progression team.
Right.
So we work with XP, rewards, crafting, and personally I've been mostly working on loot and vendors.
Nice. All right. Well, there's been a lot of adjustments to those over the whole PTS
Yes.
process, so that's why it's super good to have you here. We have week 2 has just finished.
Yes.
All right. So week 3 will be going live today, correct? I think
We're officially entering week 3 now.
Oh my God, a lot of stuff. So like we've said before, and I think it's important to reiterate this, the PTS, as much as it pains me to say it, isn't for your enjoyment. It's not. It's for us to test a lot of things, and that's why it's been really, really good. So we're honing in on that, a lot of the systems that require a lot of tuning, balance, loot, and gear, and the whole in-game experience, especially in the context of world tiers. We're kind of honing in on that experience. And I know I saw people in chat before saying, we've seen the patch notes, and it's like, oh, they're listening. Yeah, this whole process, yes, we're listening, but also we're testing. So we get the chance to look at what's actually happening through the data that we get, but also mix it with that whole community conversation. So good job.
And there's been a lot of discussion, especially last week following some of the changes we did. So obviously this is all discussions that we've been reading and we've been listening to, and we made some adjustments now. As you said, we're getting closer and closer to the end result that we're looking for. So now it's just really about small tweaks here and there and testing things one way or the other. But yeah, we're getting there. Patch notes. So we just published the patch notes on the forum for week 3 of the PTS. I don't know if the command in chat is up to date now, or is it updated?
Gabe just updated it for us. So if you type !patch notes in chat, you will get the latest week 3 patch notes, which are the ones you have here.
Yeah. So thank you, Gabe.
Thanks, Gabe.
The cringe. Yeah, the cringe. I know. That's my specialty. Just ruining the mood. That's what I do.
Yeah.
All right. So let's go through it. I'm not going to read everything because, again, there's a bunch. But some of the interesting changes. And the first ones people should be happy about. So there was something with the time to kill, and especially the time to be killed, that seemed kind of off with week 2. It was already here in week 1, but somehow it was not noticeable as much. But it became very noticeable with week 2. So a lot of people are putting patch notes now.
Yeah, there you go.
So basically what we did to address that is we decreased the damage of level 31 to 33 NPCs by 15%.
Yeah, to get things back in line with that.
To get
baseline.
things back in line with, again, the 1 to 30 experience and everything. So what that means is that all the NPCs starting from world tier 2 and above are going to deal 15% less damage to you. So time to be killed is going to be much better, and it's going to feel better. So you're not going to be as fragile as you were before. So that should help. Another thing that we did with time to kill, because we were not completely happy. We're pretty happy with where we stand now with normal and veteran NPCs. It's pretty good. But with elites, we felt like it was still a bit too much. It was still a bit too long, especially when you have heavies, because they're really, they're still kind of bullet spongy. So what we did is we decreased the armor of the elite NPCs by 17%. So they will have less armor. So all the elites, not just the heavies, but all the elite NPCs will have 17% less armor, which means your time to kill elite NPCs is going to be faster.
Cool.
Squishy, thank you. Squishy was the word I was looking for. So that's going to be a bit better. That's also going to make it better for people who want to, when you're like going to challenge mode kind of difficulties and all of that, and also if you want to solo these kind of difficulties, because elites are still quite a challenge when you're playing solo. So That's two changes, but that should have a very significant impact on your experience. So let us know how it feels when you play on week 3, or PTS 3 as we call it. And then another change that we did regarding NPCs that is going to be noticeable is we basically change the threat mechanic. So
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to try
we
out.
tweaked, or it's more than tweaked, but yeah, we made a lot of changes to the threat mechanic. So basically what we did is we cannot change the threat mechanic so you can have a better understanding of how threat works and a better control over threats. So we changed the way NPCs react to threat generation, and we also changed the approach to threat with a lot of skills, which means that now you will clearly have skills that generate threat, skills that reduce threat. That was one of the
Smart cover especially is one of the
smart
threat
cover, for
reduction ones.
example, mobile cover also. Pulse is also going to have one mod that actually reduces threat. So the idea is that we want you to have more control over it. So obviously the guy who's standing there with a ballistic shield shooting with his gun should be generating much more threat than other guys. So
especially if you have your friends
tank.
in smart cover, which is really cool. I'm looking forward to trying that out.
So we have a bunch of changes there regarding that. The end result should be that yes, you should have much more control, better control over threat generation, which means that tanking should be and aggro management should be a proper mechanic in a group. So that's going to be interesting to see what you guys think about it. So test it and let us know. Then what do we have? Search and destroy and high value targets. So we changed the search and destroy. There was something with search and destroy where a lot of the enemies were actually elites, which is kind of wrong because search and destroy is not really meant to be something challenging. It's meant to be like an activity you can just farm, so you can farm your intels, and then the HVTs are meant to be a bit harder.
Sure.
And we had a lot of elites in the search and destroy, so what we did is we basically removed them. Or most of them. So now it's going to be mostly just normal and veteran NPCs when you're doing search and destroy.
Nice.
So search and destroys are going to be much easier and therefore much faster to farm as well.
Keep in mind,
Intel, by the way, that's not a week 3 change. I think it was a week 2 change. You guys changed the amount of intels you get from search and destroy, right?
Yeah, we definitely changed it. I'm not sure if it was PTS2 or this week, but it's definitely changed from 5 to 10. So that would lessen the grind a bit more, so you can get to the actual contracts a bit more quickly.
and the contracts get a lot of rewards now. It's super cool.
Also. And also one good thing with actually search and destroy and high value targets is that we made a change last week with in the end was not a very good idea. We wanted to make weekly high value targets contract group content. A lot of people have been commenting on that, so we've reverted that. So that means that high value targets and high risk targets will scale to group size again, which means you can solo them, the weekly ones. Because we made a change, so only daily could be played with smaller groups, or only dailies would scale to group size, and weeklies would always be scaled for groups of 4.
Cool.
You guys didn't like it, we understood, we understand, we agree, so we reverted it. So forget about it. Now, high value and high risk, they scale to group size, so you can play them solo. So easier search and destroy missions, more rewards or more intel from search and destroy missions, and therefore also high value targets contracts that will scale to group size.
Nice.
So,
People are very, very happy about that one. That's really cool. I actually did the first weekly yesterday. I don't know if that was scaled to me or to the group size, but with my crappy build, I ran out of time to kill all the enemies. But then I went back with another build and I managed to do it. But it was difficult. But I think this change is really, really cool. I'm excited about it.
Okay, next one, and we know this one has been discussed already. Banshee. So we said last week the 4-piece Banshee, the non-rogue bonus, which was the speed bonus. We did tell you we had to remove it. We know that some people don't really understand why, or have been questioning why we have to remove the speed buff. Basically, again, what's happening is there is a whole technical limitation to how fast you can move. And basically, if we keep this speed bonus, on some machines it's going to work fine because your computer or your machine is going to be able to buffer the game at the speed you're moving. And on other machines it's going to be complicated, and it might lead to situations where the game is not going to buffer fast enough, which means we're going to have to force you into a slower speed, or actually to make your character walk so the game can catch up. So it's not going to be a good experience. We know that some of you tried it and didn't have this issue, but that doesn't mean it's going to be the case for everyone.
Yes.
It's unfortunate, but something we wanted to try, but that's not something that works good enough for us to release it. So we removed it. We did say we were going to remove it. We removed it. So now it's been replaced with Why Not Rogue. Damage to rogue players is increased by 10%. That didn't change.
Yes.
And then no Dark Zone XP or currency is lost on death.
Yep.
So what that
Nice.
means is that when you're wearing this gear set, if you're in a Dark Zone, you're not rogue. If you die, you're not going to lose any currency or any Dark Zone XP.
Nice. I mean, I know I've already seen a lot of the conversations around this online. People seem a bit split. Some people love it,
Yeah.
some people don't like it. I mean, that's kind of also the same with a lot of sets we have because the
Yeah.
game is about choice. But again, we'll keep a close eye on how all these things pan out. But it'll be very interesting to see that testing, especially in the context of the live game, because right now one of the things you don't have with a set like Banshee, which provides a lot of farming opportunities in the Dark Zone, that investment on your character doesn't really exist on the PTS because you're going to get deleted anyway.
Yeah.
But in the live game, when you're really trying to gear up your character, you have a lot of the credits, which you can now spend on sealed caches, and we'll talk about that in a second, which is really, really cool.
Yeah.
And you won't lose anything. So
Yeah.
there's some cool things happening there.
So we know, and I can see in chat already right now, that opinions are very split on that one, which is very interesting. Guys, keep discussing and let us know. Try it on week 3, try it on the PTS, let us know what you think. We think it can be interesting because Dark Zone is all about risk versus reward, and therefore now, if you're wearing this gear set, which of course is not mandatory for the Dark Zone, but if you're wearing it and you're not rogue, either that's going to help you farm, because if you die while farming, you're not going to have the consequences, or also if you want to do rogue hunting, it's going to be also less risk for you because you're not losing as much if you actually don't manage to kill the rogue.
Yep.
So that's something we're experiencing, or we're like, we're just experimenting with. Let us know. Next one, and that's a good one, named weapons. So the named weapons are no longer locked to specific gear scores.
Exactly.
Yes. Nice. So, but we talked a little bit about this off the stream before.
Yeah.
I think now is a time since we're talking about it and we don't forget it later on. There's some changes to where you can find specific high-end weapons, right?
So, of course, it's like all the weapons are available at all gear score levels, but there are some limitations to that depending on the source where you get them from.
Okay.
Like vendors, we scale those with world tier. So everything that was on vendors, you can get at every level depending on what tier you are.
Okay.
Stuff that drops in open world will also just scale, but depending on the tier that you are. So a 33 or a 229 Caduceus is a thing now.
Yes.
But so is like a 182 Showstopper, for example.
Oh, okay.
So that used to be a 229 only.
Yeah.
The thing is that we tried to keep the sources intact when we introduced the world tiers.
Yeah.
But for example, challenge mode for main missions is locked to tier 2, right?
Sure.
So that means you like the Showstopper is still behind challenge mode. So that one won't be available in tier 1, which is why you can't get it as a 163.
Oh,
but from then on, you can get it at any gear score. So, but the swapping around of the sources has to do with the blueprints, because blueprints do not scale, right? Like any other blueprint in our game is like, this is the fixed gear score thing that you make.
Yeah.
So we, instead of like offering a lot of blueprints for those as well, we try to like just redistribute the weapons that affected.
Okay, because I think you talked about Tenebrae earlier,
yes,
right?
Yes, it should be
ones.
Tenebrae, Valkyria, and Liberator.
Okay.
And so we didn't put in the patch notes what the new sources are for these named weapons.
Okay.
2 of them are quite easy to find because they're on the Phoenix credit vendor. So you will see that as soon as you open his...
So the Tenebrae and...
No, the Valkyria and the Liberator.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And the Tenebrae is somewhere else.
Somewhere else.
Somewhere else. So whoever finds it first,
gets a
let us
cookie.
know.
Yeah.
Right.
Send us a screenshot or something. Tell us where you got it.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see how the named weapons are going to contribute to character building with 229 options.
Well, yeah, and I mean,
there's a lot of discussion also regarding skills about the approach with the diminishing return curve and how intense the diminishing return was. So we made some tweaks to the curve now based on your feedback as well. And we basically changed it so that we still want skills to be useful even if you don't really spec in electronics, and that has always been the case because You know, we don't want you to completely disregard skills, but therefore we want to reward players who invest in electronics heavily. We want to reward them more. So we changed the diminishing return curve to make it more interesting, basically, to invest in electronics, which means you're going to be able to go even further with your skills by investing in electronics. What that means, though, is that we had to do some tweaks with some of the skills to make sure that they don't scale like incredibly and you don't end up with very OP skills. So there's a bunch of rebalancing we did on skills based on that. I will not go through that. I invite you guys to have a look at the patch notes. It's a lot of small tweaks here and there. It's nothing drastic. But yeah, just have a look there. But know that, yes, now you're going to be rewarded more by investing heavily in electronics, which is going to be nice. We also looked at the skills, the other thing that's interesting. So we talked about it, it's all the threat generation. So now things like ballistic shield will generate more threat, will generate threat just by the fact that you're carrying your ballistic shield, but it's also going to generate threat by you shooting with your gun. So basically, we're adding a lot of threat mechanics there. So if you're standing in front of the NPC with your ballistic shield and shooting with the gun, you should generate more aggro than the guy standing in the back sniping the NPC.
Nice.
So that's going to be a lot of playing with the aggro. Smart cover, for example, the concealment mod reduces the threat. So you can hide behind a smart cover and deal a lot of damages, and if there is another guy that's generating more threat, he's going to get the aggro. Pulse Scrambler also reduces threat. Yeah, mobile cover extension generates threat, countermeasure reduces threat. So yeah, a bunch of skills actually got these kind of things.
Nice.
So again, try it, tell us how it changes the group mechanics and if the tanking actually feels like a proper approach now. But that should be good. Okay, then next is loot. So that's your time to shine. Okay, the first one, and that's a big one because that's a big discussion we had. And yeah, there are a few disclaimers there, but open world named NPCs, we changed the respawn cooldown or the respawn timer. It was at 24 hours, and we know that a lot of comments were made on that. We changed it to 4 hours.
Nice.
So that's much faster.
Cool.
Yeah. So of course, like it's much faster. So we try to look at like how long does it even take to like clear out the entire game world.
Exactly.
If you are hunting these guys.
Yeah.
And of course, we don't want you to like, you know, find one guy, kill him, go back to the other guy because he respawned, and then like go back and forth between those two.
Yeah.
So it needed to be somewhere in the middle between that and the situation where you just have nothing for a very long time.
Yeah.
So this is the new value, and hopefully that will work.
Yeah, it should work in a way that you're going to, or you can farm the open world, kill the named NPCs, then go do something else for a while, and then come back to the open world, and you can kill the named NPCs again. So 4 hours should be like when you are having long gameplay sessions. That means that you could do it more than once. Which is what we want. Now, of course, we've seen all the discussions about PvE dark zones, about landmark in PvE, and all these kind of things. We know that this is not a direct answer to all the things that you guys want, but in terms of time frame available for 1.4, this is what we can do. We cannot do more. We cannot add landmarks. We cannot add. I know that a lot of people were asking for map indication to help you farm the bosses in the open world. These are all good ideas, and it's all things that we want to hear from you guys. Just keep in mind that yeah, it's right now it would be too much work. If we were to start working on that, we would have to push 1.4 to much later. So eventually, now we are at the point where we need to make decisions on how much we can do for 1.4. So this is a nice thing to make it better. We know it does not answer all the requests, but it should be much better.
Nice.
Underground bosses and underground chest will now only have a chance to drop purple instead of iron and gear set at normal difficulty in tier 1.
Yes.
Repeat that after me now. Yeah.
So we can take that step by step, I guess. It's part design, part bug that this happened. The design part is that we wanted to put the crate at the end of Underground on par with these bosses, quality-wise. And these bosses had chances of purple on normal, in all tiers.
On normal difficulty, yeah.
Yeah, on normal difficulty, in all tiers though. So that's the design part, that we wanted to do that. The bug part is that it didn't stick to just normal.
Yeah.
So it happened on hard and challenge as well. So that's fixed as a bug. The other design part is like, why would we have purples on every world tier?
Yeah.
And that's because like when we did our first iteration on like loot and rewards, like other people were working very much still on like the gear rebalancing and the stats
Sure.
and everything. So at that time we worked with the assumption that a higher level purple than a high end could actually be better. Which means that if you move from one world tier to the next one and you try and play normal,
okay.
purples would be viable. That's not where we ended up with the purples.
Yeah.
So and that's a valid point from everybody who brought this up.
Yep.
And that's why we also removed it from all world tiers except the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that is where you just walk into end game and are not decked in level 30 purples. And they are still viable.
Yeah.
This is why the PTS is so good, because we get to like
Yeah.
make these changes, and I'm glad that we got that feedback, and now we can get it in and all of that. Anyway,
Yeah.
we have a lot to go through still. so-
Just quickly, guys, as for date, we're not going to give you a date
Yeah.
in this state of the game.
No
Just so
date.
we're clear with that. We don't have a date because we want to give you the PTS week 3 and then we want to get your feedback. We think we're getting close to what we want to have, but we want to make sure that you guys agree with us before
Yeah.
we confirm a date. So
Yeah.
you're not going to get a date today, so no need to spam the chat with that. But yeah, so just to make it clear, underground chests, especially, and also underground bosses and mission bosses, but the biggest contention point was the underground chest, will only have a chance for purple in normal difficulty tier 1.
Yeah.
Normal difficulty over tiers, it's going to be guaranteed high-end or gear set.
Yeah.
And hard difficulty and challenging difficulty tier 1 also guaranteed high-end and gear set.
Yeah.
So we kind of went back to something closer to what it was in week 1 compared to week 2. We've seen that this was a big issue, and as you said, it was also part bug. We talked about, like we confirmed it quickly when people were complaining about it, but there was an issue where the underground was always considering you as normal difficulty, even if you were not, so the chest would give you the reward of normal difficulty. It's not going to be the case anymore. So underground, good jobs. And also mission bosses and underground bosses.
Yes.
And I'm talking about bosses. So the mission and incursion, so what we call the mid bosses, which are the 4 horsemen, what's their name again? Raptor and Domino in General Assembly. I don't know if there are others, but like the named bosses you get during a mission or during an incursion, but are not the end boss of this mission. We made a change last week where they had the chance to drop purple. That didn't go very well, so let's talk about it.
Nobody wants the purples. No. I think like we don't consider these guys actual bosses, right? They're like they're named guys, but they're not the end of mission bosses. So that's why we give them different loot, because for the guaranteed stuff that you get from an activity, we only take into account the bosses and the rewards, and the rest is bonus.
Yeah.
So that's why we didn't want to guarantee you high ends from these guys. So they had a chance for purple and a chance for high end, but it was a guaranteed drop.
Yeah,
Sure.
But that's changed now, where we changed the guaranteed drop to crafting materials. So it's
Cool.
always something useful. And if you get the additional actual item drop, it will be a high end.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Okay, that's cool. I like that.
So you won't see, basically you won't see purple from them, then you will always get your crafting material, and then if you get an item, it's going to be...
Exactly. Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, that should be good, because it's always useful getting the crafting materials. That's something we discussed a lot with some of you asking us to remove purples, and we said removing purples doesn't mean that we're going to give you high ends instead, but there are alternatives, like in this case, which is then giving you something more useful.
Yeah.
Which actually leads me, I wanted to ask you about purples, because that's a discussion we had a lot, and with the changes we did in week 2, a lot of people have been complaining, why would you ever give us purples in World Tier 4 when you know that this is useless to us at all? And even though we're doing changes, you're still going to have chances to drop purples on like random enemies, for example.
Yeah.
So can you talk a bit about why, from a game design point of view, we need to have this?
Yeah, I think that's like how a loot game works, right? It's like you have to have some not so good drops to appreciate the actual good drops.
Yeah.
And we have a system where we guarantee you the good drops from the bosses and the rewards.
Yeah.
But of course, your regular mobs out in the open world are just that, like cannon fodder, right? So they're not supposed to give you the best stuff all the time. They're there to have a chance for that. And if you don't get that, then you get something else, which we have like other systems where these things can be used, right? Like you sell them and you buy something else, or you deconstruct them and you craft something else.
Yeah.
So that's basically the point. We can't only hand you out the good stuff all the time, basically.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. And a lot of people